So protocols for drafting warning redundancy termination letters. And we'll do the charges and so on as we go along, either today or in the second session. All right, I will. So the focus today, we have several just to look at, and it will be interactive presentations, but I'm not going to try to swamp you with the information. So for today, we'll do the verbal, the written, and possibly the investigation letters, all right? If we can go further, that's fine. I just want to ensure I cover all the major correspondences which should be given or utilized throughout the disciplinary process. All right, so just to be clear, all right? Now, in terms of the offenses and related warning letters, when it comes to minor offenses, good? The fact is this, that you can always give an informal verbal warning initially, right? And the informal verbal warning is something which you will log into your personal logbook. Do not place it on the individual's file. The informal verbal warning is given usually by the supervisor to a team member who has essentially breached the company policy, but the offense is not deemed to be serious or very serious. A good example of what may be deemed to be a minor offense, which would warrant an informal verbal warning for many companies, is lateness. Person is late today, you may give them a talking to and advise them of the established procedures. What is the start and end time for work? What time they should be at their station and so on. Good. If the person doesn't adhere to the protocols that were shared to them, if they commit the offense again, then you may have to give a verbal warning, which will be documented. And of course, this will be placed on the individual's file. Now, for serious offenses, essentially, the person should get a written warning or a final written warning or a first written warning. But for serious offenses, I would advise you not to utilize the informal process, which means that you should not give the person an informal verbal warning. Once it's serious, based on your company's disciplinary schedule or matrix, you should ensure the person is given a written warning, a first written or a final written warning. And of course, for very serious offenses, which are deemed to be gross misconduct, it's a suspension or termination letter that they will receive. And of course, these letters will be given after a hearing is held. Now, mind you, based on practices in some organizations, what is deemed to be gross misconduct is a view that there's no need for a hearing. As I've said before, once the intent is to terminate, there should be a disciplinary hearing. And although we're not going to be doing that today, but I would hope to you that the principles of neutrality, natural justice, and due process are adhered to once you intend to convene a hearing.
I'm sorry.
Mute your phone, your device, whoever came in. All right, guys, so based on what I said now, are there any questions on this slide? Anything you want me to expound on, anything you want clarity on? Are we clear on the types of offenses and the correspondences which are aligned to these particular offenses?
Hi, sir. Good morning. Would you
Morning.
deem drinking on the job as a gross misconduct?
Okay, so it's not for me to decide that. Your policy should state if drinking on the job is deemed to be a serious or very serious offense. The fact is this, and our colleagues who have been here a bit longer will know that we can't arbitrarily assign penalties to infractions or alleged infractions. There has to be a codified policy which speaks to what the penalty is if the employee breaches in a particular manner. So the answer is that your policy will have to decide. And based on your question, I suppose that you don't have a policy in place yet, right? Am I correct or incorrect?
Hello?
Yes. Are you
Oh,
hearing me?
sorry. Yeah, I have some issues. Yeah, but some policies don't necessarily pinpoint the specific act. So it would be like a broad term really that covers, I'd say, unprofessional conduct.
Ideally, we want the policies to be very specific and they should cover as much offenses. You won't capture all, because there are some things which will fall outside the parameters of what exists for the company. But every effort should be made to, I'm trying to find something to share with you, to ensure that a policy exists that outlines what the standards are, one, and two, what the penalties are if there's a breach in certain ways. I'll just share this with the team quickly. I mean, I'd hope most of you will have this, if not all. If you don't, then we can speak afterwards. So let me share this with our colleague who was just speaking. Share a screen. So you should have something like this. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes.
This is something I'm working on. So you should have something like this. And it has the
Yes,
offense.
definitely.
So you try as much as possible to update it as time goes by.
Okay.
Yeah. But usually drinking is deemed to be a serious or very serious offense.
Oh, Dr. Marsh, may I ask a question?
But,
How would you generally categorize gross misconduct? I think there should be a definition for
yes.
it, and then
So
we would each organization would then um determine what specific,
right. So
behaviors would
right.
fall under that general definition.
So there should be a definition, but usually actions deemed to be gross misconduct are those which may affect the company in a very critical manner, right? So we're talking about offenses which will either lead to significant damage or loss to the company, or it may be related to any kind of bodily harm to individuals or clients or so on. Each company may define what they deem to be gross misconduct, but what is important is that there's usually industry standards. So I can say that in certain industries, you will find similarities across companies. As to what is deemed to be gross misconduct. So apart from having your own standards, you can also look at as to what exists across companies in your industry. But usually, once it's deemed to be gross misconduct, it means that it has either led to significant damage or loss to the company, or it affects the client relationship and a client meaning internal and external customers, meaning staff and also persons who you serve in the general public. So those particular offenses are extremely they affect the reputation of the company as well in a manner which is extremely negative. So you have to take stringent action there and then. Okay. But
Yes. Okay, thanks.
usually, colleagues, what you can try to do, and this is some advice I'm sharing with you, is that when you're drafting your employment contracts or your job letters, you tend to include the offenses which are deemed to be gross misconduct. So the employer understands there and then that if these breaches are committed, they may be dismissed for it. All right. All right. Any questions or comments? Anything else? You may speak freely. All right. So there are no questions. Colleagues, I'm asking you to just write individually, not collectively, to put together an informal verbal warning. Let me correct the slide right here. It has informal verbal warning letter. I don't know. This won't be a letter. All right, so let's try this exercise. I want you to outline. Let me share screen again. You see my screen now?
Yes.
All right. So quickly, colleagues, put together the main pointers that you would put in a conversation, which would be an informal verbal warning to Miss Young. It says here, Miss Young reported late for work, 30 minutes late twice last week. Her excuse was that she could not wake up early on both occasions. After meeting with Miss Young, give her an informal verbal warning letter documenting the infraction, or well, she said documenting, outlining. Let me type something here. Let's say for the infraction. All right, so you can do it in point form as to how you'd approach this conversation, okay? So take 15 minutes. We will resume, what time is it now? 9:20, so 9:35. Are we following, guys? Any questions?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. You may proceed. If you can, colleagues, you may type your response, okay? And I'll share screen. So you can type.
Mr. Marsh, good morning.
Morning.
All right, this is Amatola. I joined late. Can you tell me what we're supposed to do with this activity here?
Right. So what we're doing here is that I spoke to the group a while ago, or the team, about giving the different types of warnings, right?
Yes.
The one that was mentioned was the informal verbal warning. And I'd have said to the team that it's a conversation that will be had with the individual, the team member, but you won't log it on their personal file. All right.
So it's not a written thing, just
right, it's a conversation, but I'm asking colleagues to just outline what are the main pointers that they would be sharing with the individual who they're having the conversation with. In this case, it's Miss Young. So what would you be saying to her? Right? What are the main points that you would be raising or sharing with her in this informal verbal warning? All right.
Okay, all right then. Okay, thank you.
All right.